we should play Exalted.
Isn't that the anime one?
It is basically over the top. The more dramatic you describe it, the better the attack is.
That'd be fun for like a short campaign.
Like a 3-shot where it's like just
Yeah.
three.
Yeah, that would get exhausting.
Well, I feel like you get like burned out on like pros. You have to
Yeah,
feel like
just like I have 6 attacks per round now. Like, oh no.
All right, we all ready to go? Anybody need to do anything before we start?
I'm good.
Yeah, we're ready.
So, where we left off last time, you guys had just arrived on the island city of Glenmont after being dropped off by Fan Yu and his crew. The unparalleled ska band, as Soren put it.
I forgot about it until you just said it again. I'm like,
On you and his crew. Yeah, it hit me again too when you said it out loud.
You guys made your way north on the mysterious island where there were no signs of animals or insects or any kind. It was just plant growth through and through. And as you made it to the center of the island, you become aware of a strong divination magic presence that was radiating out in all directions from the island. And as you approach the center, you did find the town of Glenmont, the small ancient settlement that has been here for quite some time. And upon putting together a plan, before the formation of a plan could be put together, Pig ran off into town after a old friend of Pate's, Torluck Boneshield, a dwarf that Pate has known for quite some time, but had not seen in many years. Spending the night at his cabin, Pate and Torluck went downstairs to play cards for a bit before heading to bed, and that is where we left off. He also explained a little bit about Viserion Favire, who is the All-Seer, the head of the township here in Glenmont. So we left off. Pate, you are being dealt a hand of cards by Torluck in the basement as he's poured you some quite aged and well-kept dwarven stout whiskey that's in your glass in front of you. As he finishes dealing out the cards, he begins kind of looking at his hand and reorganizing and looks up to you and goes, "So, what is this burden that you bring with you? I felt it when I first met eyes with all of you."
Well, to be honest, I can't quite say what it is, but we're hoping to find some answers. It's almost better the less you know.
Well, you'll find in time that things don't really go unknown here for very long. For better or for worse. And he kind of lays down a card to play. Or what? Are you proficient in any game sets?
I don't know. Let me find out. Would that be
It would be under, here, let me look quick.
like by my musical?
Character sheet, bottom left. It would be tool proficiencies and custom skills.
Yeah,
Doesn't
no,
look
I'm
like
not.
it. Okay. So go ahead and make the general intelligence check. So it's going to be d20 plus your intelligence.
Okay.
As you guys are playing a round of basic poker cards. Care for a game of Gwent? That's how you'll beat the big bad evil guy, by the way, at the end of the campaign. It's just going to be a Gwent game.
So sorry, just
Spoilers.
the intelligence roll or something else?
Just intelligence.
Okay.
D20 plus in. It's not showing up for me. Is it showing up for anybody else?
I can't see it.
I don't see it.
All right. Well,
Is
What is
my camera loading?
No.
yeah, I can see
Yeah, I
both
can
of
see
you.
you
You're
on
both...
camera.
Let me reload.
All right.
I don't see your camera.
I don't know if you want me to re-roll or whatever. It was a 6.
Okay. Let's go with that. I'm sure it'll show up.
Oh, my connection to the server has been interrupted.
I need to get my dice roller. As Torlek lays out the first couple cards of the round, you notice that it's a very, very rough hand that you've been dealt, and you go to discard a few and then pick a few more. Torlek lays down his first round and just completely wipes the field. Kind of takes the first round and he goes, "It's all right. It's been a while for you. I've got a lot of time to play for myself here." He deals another round to you. Go ahead and make one more intelligence check if you can.
Okay. Did you guys see I wrote test in the chat?
Yes. Oh, now it showed up.
Okay.
There we go.
You disappeared though, so let me do this. But yeah, go ahead and roll another one.
You see that one?
Negative.
Well, see your
I
camera.
swear it's a 20. It's not a crit. But...
All right. It'll show up. The first one showed up eventually. Yeah, so this time when he lays out the hand, you notice you have quite a few matching cards. You have like several twos of a kind, and you're able to play out a few cards and take a few back, and you're able to wipe Torlek's cards completely off the field almost in the first 2 plays. And he kind of is like taken back for a moment, and he goes, "Well, maybe I should go a little harder. All right." And he kind of gathers them up one more time. And he goes, "All right, let's see if he can handle this one." And he lays one more round out. So go for your final game roll.
Ish. 7. I don't know if that's
7?
it.
Yeah, within the first two plays, Torlek is able to get the upper hand and then manages to push through your defenses in the cards. Just completely wipes the field once more. And he just kind of nods and holds his drink up for a moment and takes a small sip and puts it down and goes, "Been a long time since I've actually played with anybody that appreciates a game like this. Not a lot of gamblers here in town.
We'll
Other
change that
counts.
soon enough.
Well, it's mostly because most of them can see your hand. So it's really hard to play a card game when you've got knowledge on the other person's moves. But it's refreshing to at least win once.
Just like the old days.
Well, not quite, but the best parts.
Soren is going to take note of this. He had never thought of that before. He's going to pull out a piece of paper and write down.
You're not in the room.
Well, where is what's happening?
You guys are upstairs in the house. You've been given your sleeping arrangements, and then Torlek wanted to catch up with Pate down in the basement.
We were all frowning in a circle talking about how creepy this place is.
That's true.
I didn't know there was I thought we were like all still kind of in like a common area, and we're just gonna like camp out on the floor or something. But
as Torlek puts the cards back into the case for him, he goes, "I'm sorry, Pate. I'm not quite as young as I used to be, and you aren't either, but perhaps better than I. My bones ache, and I'll need to go to bed.
I understand.
In the morning, when you want to go see Viserin, if you'd wish, I'll go with you. I don't have
That would be
much
greatly appreciated.
tomorrow." Right, well, I'll let you finish your drink if you'd like. And he kind of like sits back and just like downs the rest of it and puts it down on the table. Just goes, like, winces for a moment and goes, "But I'd best be off. Best to sleep to you, and let me know if you need anything."
Sleep well. Thank you.
And he kind of nods and pats you on the shoulder a bit. He kind of walks up the stairs. The rest of you see Torlek come back in, bags under his eyes, and just kind of yawns and goes, "I'm off to bed. If any of you need anything, just give me a shout. Not literally a shout, but my room's right over here. Good night to you all.
Thank you again for the hospitality. We appreciate it.
Like I said, a friend of Peyton Varnus is more than a friend of mine, so... He nods and kind of shuffles off to his room, closes the door behind him. And you guys are left to your own.
Can I investigate the basement?
Yeah. Go ahead and roll an investigation check. What do you want to look for?
Could you just
Oh, you cut out.
like a cellar?
You cut out for a second.
Oh, I said, could you describe the basement first? Is it just like a cellar, or?
Yeah, it's like it's actually like an old wine cellar that's been kind of updated at some point. It still looks ancient. Like whatever work was done to this was done at least 100+ years ago. But it's very well kept. There's no erosion to the stone walls. There's small kind of like wood molding that goes up to about knee height around the edge of the room. And the supports that hold the floor up above you are these very elaborate elven kind of curved rafters that go back and forth throughout the room. You remember that Torlek pulled the dwarven stout out of a tile on the floor, these heavy stone set tiles that are well polished, but are very, very like thick and like foundational in the room, is where he pulled those out of. You can remember which tile it is. For the rest of the room, it seems to be some basic storage. There's a wardrobe kind of in the corner that looks a little dusty and unused. But other than that, a very fine, I would call it more of a basement than a cellar. Like,
Yeah.
this is a proper home's basement.
Alright, I am going to look for Thieves' Camp.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna type to you, and as I'm doing that, is there anything the rest of you want to do before you go to sleep?
Yeah. I can't say I'm surprised that you and Pate have a contact here, fair enough. You three go way back?
It's a long story, but yes. More Pate's story to tell than mine.
I don't know why I was worried that we would have trouble here.
Must be nice having friends all over.
We have a few. I don't know if they're still the same.
Seem Pate and Verna have a long and storied past. How long have you been in the Icewind Dale?
Oh,
I don't actually have a number.
okay.
I guess I had just assumed before this that you had all lived your whole lives there.
Oh no, we've been around.
I was gonna say, working your way up to an advisor status of sorts with one of the town spokesmen. I guess, yeah, I always thought that you guys were there too. Now I see that there's more to that story than what we originally knew.
Oh yeah. So since our original plan has changed, now that we have somewhere to stay, do you want to take this back?
Marleone's going to think on that one long and hard. Would you rather not carry it? It's up to you.
Oh, I'd be more than happy to carry it, but from what I understand, you've seen it as your own burden to carry, and I wouldn't take that.
Sure, I'll take it back from you then, yeah, since our arrangements did change.
All right.
The honor is thick in this room.
So you gave the package back to Marleone. Is what I heard.
Yep.
All right. So, anything else before you guys? I'm assuming you're settling in for the night because it's super late at night at this point.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
still
let
don't like it here. That's it.
Marleon's gonna let the tablets that he was working on last session, I guess, dry out overnight and finish getting them ready in the morning.
Yeah, so you managed to sand a little bit and form them, make them a little more palatable. Are you keeping those to yourself right now?
What was that?
Keeping them to yourself right now?
For the time being until they're ready.
Okay. Yeah, you imagine that they'll be completely ready to go by the morning. So if there's nothing else, you guys will settle in for the night. Even though it's relatively packed in this tiny old cottage, you do feel more comfortable than you would expect, given the arrangements. The linens and the pillows that Torlek brought out for all of you are more than adequate for a restful night's sleep. The only person that does not sleep is Pig, as usual.
Sorry, I know we are starting to move on, but I would want to maybe cast Detect Magic again, just casually, just to see if that divination magic permeates that.
Yeah, so you take a few moments before you lay down and you perform the ritual once more, and sure enough, that divination magic is continually radiating out. You can see it almost like pulsating through the wall. However, here you see a faint aura of divination, also same school of magic, same essence, but radiating out from Torlek's room as well. Not nearly as strong. The one coming from the center of town, from the dome, is immense. It's the largest aura of divination magic you've ever seen. From his, though, a slight amount.
But it is divination.
It is, and of the same origin, just coming from his room rather than from the center of town.
How close am I close enough to his room to, like, if I were to, I don't want to do it just like wanton, but I would want to gaze of Curad in his room just to kind of get.
What's the range
inside.
on it?
It's 30 feet, so I
Yeah,
don't
you'd
know if
be able to. It's a relatively small, like, it's a small cottage, so you guys are kind of packed in sardines.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you were like there's a wall that his room shares with the room that you're in.
Yeah, I would want to do that.
Okay, so you want to cast Sight of Curad? Is that what it's called? Sight of Curad?
I think it's gaze of Curad.
Gaze of Curad. Yeah, so as you cast it out, you do see Torlek in his room, and this is like what? This is like super, like when everybody else is asleep, or you want to do it?
I would like to be as sneaky as possible with it. I don't want anyone to see me doing this.
Okay, go ahead and make a stealth check then.
Where is this?
All right, I'll say, for the purposes of this, I'll say Alrond and Verna can make perception checks, as you would be like the two closest in the room to where Soren is. Yeah, so both of you would notice at some point during the night as you're getting ready that Soren kind of gets up, like sits up from his position on one of the lounge chairs and kind of like shifts over towards the wall, and you see him begin to cast a spell that you've seen him cast before. And his eyes kind of flash with this arcane magic for a moment as the Gaze of Curad becomes active. Soren, you see in Torlek's room, you see him settle down into his bed. His back is turned to you, and he's just kind of shifting around. The rest of the room seems elegant, seems well kept. Nothing piques your interest at the immediate for the few seconds that you have the vision of the room. And Torlek does seem to be kind of just mumbling, like drifting off into sleep, facing away from you. As your vision permeates, you see that same the detect magic spell wearing off. You still see that same aura kind of coming out, and it seems to be radiating from him.
Right. Okay, that's it for me.
All right. Anything else?
Are you streaming, John? I can't seem to see anything.
Yes. Is it working?
May just be me. I think I've been just like on your channel for the last week, so maybe I just need to refresh.
Probably. Would help. What you're seeing there is what you're seeing here, though. So right now it's the same. So yeah, if there's nothing
There we
else, you guys all settle in for the night, get a restful sleep, and you come to consciousness in the early morning. And the sun is somewhere in the sky above you. The mist that kind of perpetually hangs around the edge of Glenmont. You're kind of almost imagine like the eye of a storm, but it's not a storm. It's just a massive wall of mist that you all traveled through. The sun is somewhere to the east, but is just lighting up the entire area in town because of the mist that is there. As you all kind of come to consciousness in the room, you hear Torlak begin to move around in his room and comes out to greet you all in the morning, and he goes, "Hopefully you rested well."
Hi.
Thank you.
Of course, well.
We did. Torlak, there's something I noticed when we were in the woods. There seems to be a strong divination aura permeating the entire region coming from the city. Is that that's something you're familiar with, or you don't mind this someone seeing you all the time, essentially?
Well, like I said, it's something that irks people new to the island. Did for me for quite some time. But you learn that in the case of living in Glenmont, especially someone who didn't have to go through the losses that they did all those years ago, it's a necessary requirement. And I'll say that the source is, you're most likely seeing Viserion himself. As I said, he's a seer. And though seers are incredibly powerful, I haven't met one as talented and as gifted as him before.
Yeah, it does just... I'm not used to it, is all, as you said. I suppose surveillance is not a bad thing so long as it is consensual.
I don't think that Viserion necessarily is an all-seeing eye. He has the ability to, but very few times have I felt his gaze on me over the last many years. And living here for this long, you pick up some things yourself. I was never...
Countermeasures?
No, I've never been one, as Peyton Verna will surely tell you, I've never been one for magic. I'm always one that's going to trust a dagger more than a potion or a spell. But spending this much time around somebody like Viserion and some of the other minor arcane folk here, you develop abilities alongside them. I found myself catching dishes before they fall to the floor and break. I've had odd feelings about branches in the tree in my yard falling. And sure enough, that afternoon, I'd avoid the area and come home to them caving in my roof.
You think you've just picked up this talent by being in the area?
Well, I can tell you it's not from practice. And I've been here for probably longer than most of you have been alive. So I've got no explanation, but it's something life-changing. It's unique. It's a gift, really.
A useful talent.
Keeps me from hurting myself around the house, at least. Anyways, I think Viserion would probably like to meet with you as soon as possible today. So, at least was the idea that I got.
I'm ready when all of you are. Perhaps we can grab breakfast along the way.
I'm sure there will be food provided in the dome itself, but like always, Pate's thinking with his stomach. Well, if there's nothing else you need here, I can take you to him.
I guess at this point, Marleone's going to take the completed tablets of antitoxin in his hand. He's going to walk up to the rest of the party, even though it's only a tiny house, so he's probably already there. Everyone, if I could just bother to have your attention for but a brief moment. So, I don't know what we're going to be walking into, as I'm sure none of us do. And journeying into the unknown, I like taking some form of precaution. So last night into this morning, I prepared everyone, including you, Davrick, a tablet of antitoxin. It's nothing that will prevent you from nothing that's meant for any one particular brew, I guess, but it'll help keep you from experiencing the pains of poison. Given a batch this large, it'll probably only last about an hour, so I suggested before we eat anything, just in case, I recommend that we take these should you desire. They're not going to taste good. They are very bitter.
As you hand one to Davrick, he kind of looks up and he goes, I'm starting to think that you actually want me alive.
Well, I certainly don't want you dead.
You see Torlak kind of look, as you tell us to the party, he kind of looks to you and goes,
I'm not sure I understand. What exactly are you worried about being poisoned?
In Lorand, there's a group of drow that once came through the area by my monastery, and it was interesting because they're one of the only other groups of elves that I've ever really met, and they were particular with poison, and because of that, I like to take precautions generally anytime I am to affiliate with other elves, just as a precautionary measure.
I suppose being proactively concerned is something I've forgotten the value in, but I don't blame you. Coming from Pete and I's past, well, something that saved both of our lives countless times, to be sure, so you're not going to need it, I guarantee that, but fair enough.
Very nearly, almost.
Oh.
Soren will shrug. It can't hurt, right?
As you say that, Davrick downs his and goes, "Oh, it hurts." Oh,
like I said,
God.
they're not pleasant.
And I assure you, Davrick, if he were allowed to die, and would never forgive himself.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I feel safer, I suppose.
In case anybody, TLDR, antitoxin gives you advantage on saving throws against poison.
Nice.
Yep.
Noise.
Nice. Well, are we ready to go?
Yeah,
Yep,
I think
I'm
I'm
all
ready
set.
to go.
He's expecting us.
As he leads you out of the cottage, and as you all exit, he closes the door behind him. You notice he doesn't lock the door behind him or anything. As he guides you all up to this tall, probably 100-step staircase that leads up to one of the first towers. That, if you're looking at the roll 20, you're on the southernmost staircase leading up. As you walk up, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. When we walk out of the house, I'm gonna have Omen land on my shoulder, and then just so you're aware, When Omen's on my shoulder, I get a +1 to perception because it adds my charisma score.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's it.
The staircase that you climb is made of this, as you saw earlier from the walls and the towers, this fine kind of white, smooth stone that you would imagine with large arches and towers and walls and everything. The stone would seem to be bricks that would be laid on top of each other. In this case, though, they seem to be almost entirely huge slabs. The section that the staircase is cut out of, it seems to be one section of this marbled kind of white stone, somehow cut into a single piece and moved in this probably hundreds and hundreds of years ago. As you enter the first of these towers, you now kind of get a larger sense of the structure that's in front of you. The town that surrounds this dome is kind of dwarfed by this structure, and within it you see a courtyard full of gardens and parks and paths to walk and relax and rest. The dome itself, as you are walking down the main bridged path through the second tower, you see the faint outline through glass on the inner dome, branches, beautifully vibrant green leaves hanging from these branches of a massive, massive tree within the center of the dome itself, filling it all the way to the ceiling, and some of the branches even working their way out of some of the windows. The trunk disappears down into the central dome structure itself, far, far below before you get there. As you approach the central chamber, there are a series of arched doorways surrounding the entire outside. About 20 to 25 of these doorways. There's more openings in these walls to the center chamber than there are actual walls. And in the center of this room, next to the trunk of the tree that disappears down below a floor of glass in the center of this inner sanctum, there is a elderly figure, kind of solemnly standing on one leg, leaning, facing away from all of you, with one hand on the tree itself and the other with a small totem in their hand. It's kind of hard to see from this distance. And just kind of has their head down and their eyes closed. Thin, snow white hair kind of comes up the back of their head and flows all the way down to about their midsection. They have these elegant green kind of gold trimmed robes that flow down off the sides of them and kind of pour into this naturally flowing figure to the ground around them. As you are brought to the edge of this room by Torlok, he goes,
"Well, I'll be right out here. It seems that Viserion would probably like to talk to you himself, whatever it is. It's not something that's my business, I suppose. But you know where to find me. I'll be right outside, probably in the gardens down there."
We'll see you soon.
And he kind of nods and gives you another pat, Peyton, walks back down towards the gardens on the inside of the walls. So you're all left in this the inner sanctum of this massive oak tree, kind of just twisting and twirling up towards the ceiling around you, the canopy filling the ceiling, right up against the top of the dome. And the trunk goes straight down the middle of the chamber and goes through the floor of glass that you are standing on. It's like one massive pane of glass. And down below, you see the roots spread out, these thick, gnarled roots that dig down to the foundations of the building and just disappear out underground and outside of the building itself.
No one else around that we can see? Just this figure? No, guards or...
Just him. Nope. No guards. You haven't seen a single guard since you got here.
Servants? Nothing. Just him.
Just
how far, what's the height of the from the floor to the, lower level? Or is it just so tangled with roots that it's, can you see the,
To
ground
the
level?
lower, you feel like this goes, not just to ground level, but it goes a little bit underground, so it's probably like a 70-foot, like a 65, 70-foot straight down. It's eerily visible compared to, if it was actually just like a 70-foot hole that it would lose light after a certain point. there's still kind of a faint glow coming from like within the chamber underneath with the roots itself. As you're kind of taking all of this in, the figure kind of perks his head up for a moment, leans back, and looks to his hand on the tree and takes it off and rubs it for a moment, and then turns around to face all of you. You all see a very elderly, kind of like wrinkled, for an elf, elven man, kind of look at all of you and go, "I knew there would be one time that you'd come to see me. When you come to this island, it's kind of customary. But over the last day or so, must admit, it's been nice to be getting to know you. I'm Viserin Favire." And he kind of walks up to whoever's gonna be in the front of the party, probably Soren or all around. Kind of puts his hand out, like delicately, but like to shake hands.
If it was Soren, I would extend my hand.
Okay. So he takes your hand for a moment and shakes it. Like you feel like you don't want to go too hard to.
Yeah, I was trying to be a little gentle. I'm not a strong man.
Yeah. You shake hands for a moment, and he kind of nods to the rest of you and goes, "So, how have you found your stay here so far? It's interesting that Torluck has bumped into some old friends. Haven't seen that happen for him before. Very few here do."
Good bit of luck.
Having never been on Glenmont before, I have to say it's been a unique experience. Your lands are unlike any I've been to before.
Well, they are our legacy, so to speak.
Forgive me my curiosity, but I noticed that there were no animals of any kind in the forest on our way here.
Yes, well, unfortunately, one of the side effects of being able to maintain our homeland is that it drives many of these beasts away. Unfortunately, you won't find any roasts or foods from animals here, but it's a price we pay to survive, as we have for so long.
This island is the source of your long lives? I thought it was just natural for elves.
No, it's not the source of my long life. My long life is due to luck, for the most part. But if you're not familiar with the descent in the Eladrin Isles that existed once westward of here, you are all familiar with the descent. You are young, but some of you not so much.
He kind of looks to the older members of the party and,
well, 212 years ago, nearing to the day next month, we were ripped from our existence, the whole of Calaran. Aran and Calmorteus had been locked in combat for long enough that they broke their ethereal tether, granted to them by their mother. And as this world plummeted to the material plane where it is now, my Eladrin Isles, my home to the west, fell away like stones thrown into a lake, never to be seen again below the surface. It took all of the energy I had as an all-seer and our most skilled arcanists to bring those that survived here to the Isle of Glenmount.
he turns to the tree.
To the Elder Tree. Strongest force arcane energy in the Eladrin Isles. With it, and with great sacrifice, we managed to keep the island in one piece, and keep those that sought refuge here from falling into that same abyss. Of course, it was imperfect. There were only so many that could make it, and the loss was great. But we stay here in one piece and have what's left because of that magic and because of the Elder Tree. Once the descent was over, and the now gods that you know and you've grown up with in your world, once they came here to settle, we were lucky enough to have the Earth Mother Unja pick us as one of her holy sites. She has blessed us with stability and a relatively safe existence compared to the rest of Caloran. More that can be said for those that follow other deities. But I am older than this island itself. I have seen a world without these gods, and it's why I wished to bring you here once you step foot upon my isle. For I feel the presence of another other than Unja that you bring with you.
So you know why we're here.
Part of me does. Part of me hopes that I'm wrong for once in my many years in this world. What is it? Confirm to me what it is you carry with you. Whatever you have.
And he kind of looks to the box that Marleone carries, and he goes,
With what damage that vessel has suffered, its energy is still contained. And one of the few things on this island I cannot see in whole.
Do you know the name Kelethar?
So it is as I thought. You bring me a remnant.
What is this is this a remnant of that same time period of the descent?
Well, you are... Do not take this the wrong way. As I'm sure you've realized, you are outsiders here. And though I am grateful for your companionship with Torluk and revitalizing his spirits, before I am to divulge to you the knowledge of this Hand of the Frozen, I need you to remove it from its vessel. I need to take ownership of it and put it in the unseen vault.
Why do you need to do this?
I agree.
To what end?
I promise you, I have been in Caloran before it got its name. I have seen all that has transpired on my shores and beyond since that descent. And I will divulge to you everything about this remnant, as long as I am assured that it is not carrying something else with it. And I do not suspect that you know what that is. I would feel it on your person. But but it needs to be removed from that vessel so I can be sure. At the very least, so I can lay eyes on it.
If we were to remove it, do you have a way to reseal it?
In the unseen vault, all things are sealed. None have escaped my gaze yet.
My fear is that this remnant is just the tip of something happening in Calaran. If we seal this away, and you are correct, is our quest finished then? We want to. We have higher aspirations than merely locking away a dangerous weapon.
Go ahead and roll a persuasion check.
I guess while he's doing that too, Marleone's going to use Minor Illusion to conjure the image of the cursed sigil. And
Okay.
As he's doing that, I don't know if it would. I mean, I would hope that maybe I could use that as a help action, but I don't think he'd need it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he rolled already, but he got a 27. So what do you want to say when you summon the image in front of you?
Something along the lines of, whatever organization this is after the Remnant Kelethar.
And he looks to Soren and then looks to you holding the sigil in front of you. And the first time throughout this entire conversation, you take a moment to himself to just kind of to pause for a moment and contemplate as he looks back to Soren and goes,
I feel what you've said is an uncharacteristically honest truth. Like I said, I've gotten to know your presence over the last day, and while I was concerned about your intent, I see it is well-natured. Perhaps not fully informed, perhaps ignorant, but not ill-meant. You're not wrong, Soren. This is not the end of your journey. This is not anything but the tip of an iceberg of what has happened in these lands. And for the first time in many years since the descent, looking at this group in front of me right now, as troubled as you all are, may be the first time that I've felt that there may be some hope yet for anywhere besides this isle. For your empire of man is in dire straits. The remnant you found and the sigil that you present before me are known to me. That cursed sigil is one that was born on a man that came here not a year ago. Torlok told you a little bit about it, but he came here looking for a different remnant. Not one of the Lord of the Frozen, not Kelethar, but one that is already in the unseen vault and has been nigh on since 20 years, 30 years after the descent. The fact that he knew where it was is what concerned me. And since then, we have reappropriated our resources to the Elder Tree to maintain that vault stronger than it ever has been. And since then, We have had no incident until you brought this here.
And now, since it is here,
Well, since it is here, I sense that there have been others looking for it. I can feel that on your persons. This remnant has brought great suffering, as the Lord of the Frozen often does. Her fury is impalpable. So now that it is here, I suggest that we put it, as the other is, in the unseen vault to be sealed away and hidden from this.
we know some of those who would seek the blade. This is why, unless you can offer us some assurance that you can help us to this end, that I'm reluctant to give it up. I don't just see an ancient relic. I see an opportunity to draw out those who would do the will of this frozen lord.
It's not the Frozen Lord you have to worry about. It's not Oriel. This is hers. This is de jure her remnant. When the descent was finished, Calaran and Calmorteus disappeared. From my sight, from everyone's. They were gone. Dead, hidden, wounded, we don't know. And when those other gods came to our shores, from Lorand for the Raven Queen, from distant lands for Bahamut and Bane, for years that would pass when Chimera reached ascension and became a god herself, they did not merely step onto our shores as you did to mine. They needed an anchor, some way to bring themselves to this new land. So each of them imbued a section of themselves, a piece of their soul, to an item, bestowed it upon their most fervent followers, and set them a sail to the shores of Calaran. The follower of Oriel at the time, her avatar, though long deceased, carried that sword. That hand of the Frozen was her anchor into this world. And it brings great pain to those who wield it, as I'm sure you've learned.
Is there a way to destroy these anchors?
The remnants cannot be destroyed by conventional means. They are dormant pieces of power for now. Dormant compared to what they used to be. If I were to come face to face with Kelethar when it was created and forged and sent upon our shores, well, I may very well be corrupted myself. But in this state it is laid untouched for however many years, decades. I am not one to tell you how to destroy them, but to hide them from sight is as good a solution as destroying them. For that which cannot be found, by any means, can still not be found.
I hear your wisdom. This is not my decision to make, though. Aneth carries the blade, and we decide as a group, I suppose.
You speak of your companions with great pride, Soren. and in Eladrin. Impressive for one of the few humans among your ranks.
Just I read a bit when I was younger.
Well, it's good to know that our legacy is not completely lost in this land. But being concerned about what these remnants may bring is a concern that not many have. Those that have come across them usually try to bend them to their will. So, I'll ask you this.
He kind of looks to the whole party and goes,
if you were to wield this remnant yourself, what would you do with it?
I wouldn't wield it. I'm no man of martial stature, as any of my companions will tell you. But if we unseal it, it seems to call out to those that would wield it.
No call to distant shores escapes my sight. And in its dormant state, it may very well be sealed away now, rather than be plucked from your hands later on and brought back to its former glory. And if that were to happen, it would not be good for anybody but those that wield it. And if it's those same individuals,
and he looks back to the sigil that, as Marlon, you like, the sigil disappears from your hand as you finish the spell. He goes,
if it is those of that following of the cursed sigil, then I can guarantee nothing good will come from it.
Is that the name of this group then? Just the followers of the cursed sigil, or do they have a different name that they go by?
I know not their name, but it is the name that I picked up from you. When you landed on these shores, I'm not a mind reader. But certain things peek through, only things that people truly want me to see. And one of them was that. The cursed sigil. Their name is foreign to me, one of few things that is. But the man that came here bearing their symbol, that cursed doorway, came from the city of Calum. And this I have not been able to explore further. That is further than my eyes can reach. But for the few things he carried with him, Calum was for sure. The fact that you do not all immediately have an answer as to what you would do with this remnant is, you may be surprised to hear, but a relief. It's those that have preconceived notions of power that are the most dangerous. Someone comes for this remnant, as they do for the one we have here. And for all this time, I thought we could just keep it hidden. But perhaps there is more to this. If you were to have your way, what would that be?
My ultimate goal is to find a way to destroy this blade. It's brought enough harm across the world as it is right now. I can't imagine what it would do if it comes out of a dormancy, but I feel that it should be with whatever is in our power to find a way to eliminate it.
My goal is to find and destroy those who would wield it. If I need to wield the blade or to study it, to do so, I will. But with your help, maybe we can avoid doing that.
Well, if you're looking to destroy the risk of the remnants, I'm afraid that this is more than you may be bargaining for.
He kind of motions for all of you to walk over with him towards the tree, the elder tree that's in the middle of the room. He stops probably like a foot away from the trunk and puts his hand against it once more. You see this bright green kind of glow come from the bark and like envelop his hand for a moment. He lays his hand against it. He closes his eyes. And a ripple kind of goes through the room for a moment, almost like a distortion of air from heat. And above him, you see the air actually begin to part and an image begin to form above him. You hear this as a small visual opening kind of bends the space around it. The light kind of being refracted around this hole in the air above him, maybe only about 1.5 feet wide. And you see him kind of like clenching his eyes and his teeth and kind of putting a lot of energy into this. And he kind of opens one for a moment and looks to you and looks up above him. And the image that you see through this is pure darkness, like the darkest black you've ever seen in your life. However, there is a pair of kind of bark-covered, moss-enveloped, but like still woven together, very finely crafted winged boots that are tied together at the heels and kind of just slowly drift in this space above him, just barely visible through this sight above him. He looks to you and he goes,
Your remnant is one of many that exist here. For we were blessed by the Earth Mother Unja, and upon us she bestowed her remnant. Not corrupting, but giving. Now laying dormant in our care.
and it closes above him, and he kind of like lets out a sigh of relief, takes his hand away from the tree. He looks back to you again. He kind of like puts his hand like in his cloak for a moment and kind of massages it, and he goes,
Every deity that has set foot on Coloron's shores for more than a week has a remnant somewhere here. And not all of them are known, cataloged, or accounted for. But this Kelethar you carry, the Hand of the Frozen, is but one of them.
Why were these remnants created? What do they do?
They were the ethereal anchors for which the deities used to make their way once Coloron fell into the material plane. And their power was too great at the time for mortals to carry for their whole lifetime. Those that followed some of the stronger gods, Bahamut, Bane, Orcus. These gods, their power was too overwhelming. Their followers were driven mad. Delusions of grandeur. We were lucky enough to not be burdened with that, but her power was Unja's power was given to the Elder Tree. And once that remnant became dormant enough to be handled, I put it away in the unseen vault.
I'm gonna give him like a quick little scrutinizing look and give him a divine sense.
Okay. Go ahead and post that.
See if he's a celestial fiend or undead. Specifically, what we can see
Sure.
maybe a celestial.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick. Be right back.
All right.
And I guess I'll take a glance down at the silver gauntlet and kind of like clench it in the fist.
He kind of, as you do this, he looks to you, Aron, and goes,
Curiosity is a useful tool. But unfortunately, I am as mortal as any of you, reaching my ending years quite soon. And this is both a blessing and a curse, for while I may not be longer for this world, I am the only one to open the unseen vault. And if I am to pass, whatever resides in it will be lost forever. Because I would rather perish than relinquish these relics to those that would use them for harm.
Good time.
And this is why I ask to seal it away, so that in my coming years, when the elders do take me, that even those that come here for the remnants will not find them. And even if the day comes that Glenmont is burned to the ground, they will leave empty-handed.
There is no way that, should you perish, that the key could never be found.
The only other that contains the key, besides me, is Unja herself. For I channel through the energy of the Elder Tree. And I doubt she would be willing to give up her link to this world and bestow carnage to her Willing's followers. She is one of the few truly caring deities left in this world. Your empires may reside on the shoulders of Bahamut and justice and the healing words of Saren Ray, but to a degree they are self-serving. And even Bahamut can make the wrong decision for his own personal needs.
Everyone, every religious person I've ever talked to thinks that their God is the true God. So I can't blame you for saying this.
They are all true gods, but I've been here for quite some time longer than they have. Unja is the only one that I have not seen compromise their own people for their own protection. But she does not demand anything from us. She offers solitude and safety, and grants it should you accept it. And many have, such as your friend Torluk Boneshield. And many more will that need it most.
You see him turn his gaze to Davrik.
When we were in the frozen north, we encountered, I believe it was some form of shrine or something. It was 12 stones all organized, but they gave off a familiar glow to like what you were experiencing with the elder tree. And I thought, if I remember correctly, it was like in dedication to Wunja. But when we approached it, it became hostile. What does that mean?
These stones you came across, they were, as you said, in the frozen north near some of the settlements, the human settlements up there.
That is correct.
This holy site is known as the Court of Elders. It is an older site. During the early days, after the descent, Unja imbued her power in several locations other than the Elder Tree. If there is a deity that wishes to contest with her holy site, it wouldn't be the first. Her original site north of there was Kelvin's Cairn. And when Oriel made her way to the northern shores, she claimed it as her own domain. Took it for herself. And in an attempt to stop her spread, the Cliffside Guardians, the Watchers to the south of Kelvin's Cairn, were assigned mortals from the Dwarven Empire to the east. Those I have felt wane in the last several weeks. One of which months ago, and the other more recently. Her holy site turning against you would be concern, of course, but it is not her seat of power. It is a place for those which follow her may commune. And while it may be lost, new ones may be built in its place.
I understand.
My only concern is that, as you describe it, the feeling which I get from this account is not that of Oriel. She is not a corrupting magic. She is a conquering magic. Oriel leads armies of undead, of those that follow her. She does not subvert. This is someone else.
Tell me,
That's a simpler foe, I suppose.
Vesserin, do you speak Primordial?
I do.
Marleon's going to take that moment and play, using Minor Illusion, the two sentences that were said to me by the golem in Primordial. The one that says, "You have what I've lost, and that remnant with long space is not yours to keep." Just like convey it using Minor Illusion.
Yeah, so you all hear this kind of like, unless you speak Primordial, you hear this like low grumbling kind of like archaic sound that Marleon puts forward, and kind of almost like boulders trying to speak. This kind of groaning, earthy tone of a language. And Viserion listens to the sentence and pauses for a moment as you finish it. He looks down and goes,
These are not Oriel's words. But of another deity. One that wishes to usurp her remnant, and I would assume others as well. For which one it is, I cannot say, but for me not to know their voice means they have been gone for quite some time.
You know the will. You seem to know some details on the wills of the gods.
Like I said, I've been here longer than they have. I've watched it all play out at a distance. When your human empires waged war on each other, back even before the descent, they weren't guided by Aran or Calmorteus. They were careless gods. They had no scriptures, no following, no willing following at least. They fought their fights in the overworld and all suffered. Now that there are gods with wills and determination and agendas, never thought I'd long for a time where we'd be living under the fire of dragons once more. But I find that as days go on. But let's get to the point.
I said it's not my choice to make.
I do not sense that you will seal this away in the unseen vault. And even if you did, you would go on feeling unsure about it once you left this place, or even if you decided to stay. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, I think you hit what I'm feeling
He's gonna
spot
shake
on.
his head.
But can you answer me this question? The forces that have chased us, pursuing the Remnant, are very strong in with necromancy and magic of the undead. Even if you were to perish, and they could bring you back from the dead under their will, could they then use your knowledge to open the vault?
I understand your concern, and I can't speak for what happens beyond death. But that is one thing that no one can see. But given a proper Eladrin funeral, where the soul is stripped from this plane and put back in its proper realm, the body destroyed, I would find it hard to believe that they could, and even if they did, it takes a great amount of willpower for myself to open the vault. And I would not willingly do this. I would rather be perpetually tormented as a soul, lost in the Ethereum, than give up the one gift that was not given in ulterior motive. Our remnant, and whatever lies with it.
How can a gift be put to use if it is locked away for all time? If this gift truly is valuable, then is it only valuable in the gesture?
Our gift is perpetually giving. For the unseen vault is housed in the Elder Tree, but closed with my lock and key. Having the gift of Unja inside of the vault itself is what has kept Glenmont in one piece, and has not let it shatter into the void that surrounds it, as the other isles were when we were torn down.
Would you let us leave with the remnant, if that is what we wished?
With the hand of the frozen. It's not mine to say. If you were to leave with it, you would be putting yourself and others at great risk. But as you've seen, I have no army. And while I wish that you would leave it here, if you are so bent as to take it with you, then the least I can do is make sure that it gets out safely. What do you plan to do with it if you were to leave? Is the better question. There is a hesitance.
Marleone is gonna try to signal members of the party for a potential group huddle if they are all inclined.
What is the group huddle signal
Yeah.
exactly?
I suppose there's no need to be secretive. He can read our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be funny to do it, but
You got a point.
There's no hiding
What's
something.
the
You got a
signal you
point.
just did it? What's the signal you're making?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess like a whistle and a finger twirly in the air, and like, okay, like let's go.
All right, let's
Sure.
huddle.
Yeah, sure.
So you guys take a few steps away.
Oh, I thought we were
Huddle
just
up.
gonna like huddle with
Oh.
and like include him. We're stepping away.
So you huddle up.
No, not Vesserin.
Wait, is it Vesserin or Viserion?
Viserion.
Viserion. Okay.
Viserion.
Viserys, the dragon.
That's what it says, right? I forgot. I've written so many fucking articles in the last.
So everybody,
Viserion Favire, yep.
Okay. So I'm of the mind that we should leave it with him. I think we're out of our league here.
This guy seems to know much, and I think he can be trusted.
I'm hesitant to do so, but I have to admit I wouldn't know what to do with the sword even if we did keep. I would like to study it, but
Perhaps
I don't even know where to begin.
Even if we found a way to destroy it, we can come back, remove it from the vault, and then destroy it, so it'd be gone forever.
Good idea.
Keep it here in the meantime.
Yeah, even still, maybe we can spend some time here and try to learn some more.
I guess in fairness, our journey isn't over. Once the sword is sealed, there's still the organization after it that we need to.
But how do we
Probably
find them
take
without
care
the
of.
sword? We've had the luxury so far of them finding us.
As you're all kind of huddled up, you hear back towards the tree itself. You hear,
There is a way.
as you kind of like look back, he's just like looking at all of you as you kind of break your huddle a little bit. He has like a slight smirk on his face, but he goes,
As I said, I've not come to doubt your intentions. So, I will do what I rarely do, especially with outsiders. I'll make you a compromise. Hand over Kelethar. We seal it in the vault with the other remnant. And in doing so, we commune with the Elder Tree. And perhaps Unja who has seen farther than I have outside of this isle in the last 200 years. With my guidance, she may bestow on you some assistance or knowledge on whatever it is you seek. These people of the sigil, or whatever troubles may lie ahead. For this is her heart.
And he looks up towards the canopy.
And the fact that she's allowed you in this far means that you may have exactly what she's looking for in someone to communicate with.
This seems like the wisest choice.
Mario reluctantly agrees. Yeah.
Kelethar will remain here. If that arrangement is pleasing to you.
Yes.
Can I kind of get a read on him?
Yeah, what do you want to try and...
Just out of kind of precaution, just to make sure I'm not getting any weird vibes from him.
Sure, I mean, make an insight check. I mean, he's pretty weird. You've never met somebody this old before. Just judging from your knowledge of it and knowing some elderly elves in passing, you would assume he's at least 1,400 years old.
Jeez.
As far as his demeanor, he seems tired, and he seems not necessarily desperate, but concerned about the situation. But nothing to feed you any feelings of misguidance or deceit on the
Okay.
surface.
Well, if we're all in agreement,
He looks to the party.
Aye.
Alright.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you're making the right choice.
And he steps away from the tree for a moment and motions to Marleone. He goes,
Shall we unseal it then?
I guess so. I'm gonna, I guess, take the box off my back. And, I mean, he seems kind of brittle to me. So I'm gonna lay it on the ground in front of him.
yes, you lay it down. You see him walk up for a moment. He kind of straightens his back a bit and closes his eyes for a moment, clasps his hands together, and then draws them out in this motion. You see that same green energy that was radiating out of the tree. He draws it into this long, like rod shape in front of him, and then basically like a about a quarterstaff sized like solid line of energy in front of him. He grasps it and lays it down like a staff onto the chest in front of him where the remnant lies inside of the sealed box. Closes his eyes, and you see his eyes kind of flare that familiar kind of tealish green, similar to what Peyton Verna you have seen far in the distant backs of pigs' eyes. He lays down the energy for a moment, and you see the box begin to warp a bit, and kind of ripple and shift, and you hear as like slight cracks begin to shoot down all sides of the chest itself, and it begins to bow upwards. However, eventually it rests, sits back on the ground, and as he opens his eyes and the rod of energy disappears from his hand, you see the box just kind of fall to ash around. What now all of you see is a jagged, solid blade of black ice, about the length of a longsword. The hilt finely crafted from a silver and purple wrapping, and then just drawing out into this long, crafted to look jagged, but like a jagged blade of black ice just shoots out all the way the length of the crate, and that is now ash, lays in the ground in front of you. You see him take a moment to look at it. He kind of kneels down a bit in front of it, puts his hand on the ground next to it, but doesn't touch it. Closes his eyes. After a few moments, he looks back up to you and goes,
Well, the good news is that it's as dormant as it was years ago. And there was nothing that I can see tied to this. Not any more than you already know of. Those that seek it.
and with that, you see him begin to lay his hand on the blade itself. And as he picks it up, he kind of and drops it. It kind of clangs to the ground for a moment, and you see as he pulls his hand away, he has like almost like the beginning of frostbite in his hand. He kind of holds it back for a moment and looks down at it.
It must be sealed now. This will require all of you to commune with me, as you have been the ones to deliver this to Unja. You must be the ones to hand it to her. Communing with the Elder Tree and Unja's spirit is not something most mortals will do. And I have done it more than many probably should in a lifetime. But it is necessary. And after you complete your journey, I will guide you to her, to perhaps answer questions you may have. If you will place your hands on the tree itself, you may begin the ritual.
Are y'all gonna do it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll observe and follow his lead.
Before Marleon places his hand on the tree, he's going to telepathically tell Omen to leave his shoulder and stand watch for anything suspicious.
Okay.
And then he'll put his hand on the tree.
So as you all place your hands on the tree, Viserion places both of his as well, and begins reciting a chant in Elvish, basically calling out to Unja. And you see that same rippling energy that the unseen vault had, however, begins to encircle all of you around the tree itself. The walls of the dome begin to fall away into darkness. That same darkness that you saw before. The floor remains, and the tree itself illuminates in this infinite blackness in front of you. Marleon, looking back, you see Omen standing in the darkness behind you on the floor, but looking around and just keeping watch as if nothing's changed in this room. Payne Verna, you see Pig sitting contently on the floor behind you, just looking at Viserion with a almost like a longing look on his face. As now your vision is completely enveloped with nothing but darkness, each other, and the tree. Your vision snaps. Everything is dark. And each of you fall into a dream, which I will now send to you in Discord because you all have a different one.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
It's going to take about 30 seconds. Give me a sec.
Oh my god. Hurry up.
Make sure you
Already
read.
woken up.
Make sure you read it very carefully.
30 seconds. Oh my god.
this would be a good time to say, for anybody watching, you should, I don't know, somebody give me a spiel for Extra Life. Go for it.
Extra Life is great, and you should donate money to it. Save the children, save the world.
I didn't know Extra Life was still happening.
Yeah,
Neither did you, probably.
Saturday
So you
is...
should donate.
I thought you were actually forgot.
Good thing helps people.
Here we go.
No, I did actually forget, and I think that maybe viewers also actually forgot. And, you know, don't forget to donate.
All right, let's see. I got you two. Where's Soren? There he is. Hate. Where you at? There you are. I will be adding these to World Anvil, and they will be only visible to you. Pros, I will link them to you individually after probably sometime this week. If you ever need to read over them again, you'll be able to see them. You don't have to go into Discord. I just didn't have time to do it right now. And all round.
Questions about our dreams, or?
I mean, I'm sure you have questions. But you're all like in this state right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll give everybody a minute just to finish. Make sure they heard everything.
I'm good.
Everybody been able to take a moment, read over it?
Yeah.
One more second. Let me read.
Yeah, no worries. You were the last one to get it, so.
All right.
So as you all experience these dreams, being unable to control yourself, almost being a spectator to what's going on. At the end of your dream, you are ripped back to the elder tree in this darkness, surrounded by the rest of the party. All of them, each of you looking to each other, white in the face. Some of you have sweat on your brow. And with that, you see Kelethar, the Hand of the Frozen, now levitated next to Viserion. With one hand, he's holding out. The sword is hovering next to him, blade facing down. With the other, he removes it from the tree and looks up. You see the canopy opens up to that familiar pair of boots that you see, tied together at the heel with some leather straps. He raises his left hand, and you see him straining as he does so. He raises his left hand as Kelethar is elevated above all of you, begins to drift up towards the canopy of the tree. Kind of rests in next to the boots themselves, hovering there as the canopy closes above you. He opens his eyes, this darkness still surrounding you. As he opens his eyes, you see they are flush green. They are emitting a very, very faint glow, but pupils, there's no iris, there's no white to the eyes, just this green glow. As he looks to you, clasps his hands together, and goes,
Few have stepped foot here. But those that have were good in heart, and sometimes misguided, but well-meaning. Why have you brought me the Hand of the Frozen? In your heart, truly. What do you wish?
I wish for it to never.
it's a completely
harm
different
every
voice,
individual.
obviously. As all of you are able to like take your hand off the tree and look around, there's still like complete darkness around you everywhere. You're standing on seemingly nothing.
I want to find those who would wield it.
You are not the only ones. Not just those that seek out these relics, but those that would hunt those that do. As my follower said, this is not the doing of Auril. Someone that has been gone a long time, and has only now decided to return.
Do you know
You
who
are-
it is?
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you know who it is?
As Viserion stated to you, I do not have vision to where deities go beyond death. But they do die. And I think some of you here know of ones that have.
And just looks across the party. All of you.
I can sense a fire in your souls. And for better or for worse, no matter what anyone tells you, you will see this through. So what would help you on that journey?
You mentioned ones who would hunt those who would use the sword. Who are they?
They are nameless, but they are those that stand to lose the most if these people were to take over. For if this fallen god were to return, while all would be at risk, there are always some that lose more than others. Which is why I chose Glenmont to be my Isle of Peace, to help those that have lost the most, as you must do when you leave this place.
Where would we head next? Where should we go?
Seek out those that follow dead gods, because it's a short list.
And you see Viserion's eyes flicker for a moment, and the voice as he's speaking begin to turn back to his. And eventually he closes his eyes and kind of and he like coughs for a moment, falls to the ground to his knees as the entire rest of your vision rushes back to you. The walls of the dome come back into vision and like surround you immediately. Saren kind of coughs on the ground, puts one hand on the tree to try and stabilize himself, looks up to you and goes,
I don't think I should do that anymore.
Yes, take care of yourself, Mr.
But it worked.
I think so. Something seemed to have communed with something.
I can feel it. I've never gotten that close before. Beautiful. And perhaps when I'm gone, I'll go there again.
what are you looking for him?
Just gauging the rest of the party's reactions when I woke up from the dream, see if I could like infer that they had a dream too, or that they were like bothered.
At the end of all this, looking around, people are shaken a bit. It's hard to tell whether that's because of something you all experienced, or you were definitely all standing together talking to Viserion. It's hard to tell beyond that.
Okay.
As he stabilizes himself, kind of gets himself up to his feet, and kind of wiping the sweat from his face, and looks to you and goes,
I was not privy to your conversation. Usually, those that channel to her through me, I'm allowed to commune as well, but this time I was shut out. What did she say to you?
She told us that we would see this through.
I have no doubt of that. You were determined enough to step foot on an island that you knew nothing about. If that's nothing to you, then this will be a challenge, but nothing more.
Vesserin, in your vast wealth of knowledge, can you think of anywhere where someone would want to worship a deity that's dead?
Well, there are few dead gods here in this realm. Fewer than most.
and as he looks to Alrond and he goes,
I'm sure you're familiar with one of them, being what I recognize to be Tormtar attire.
That's true.
The god Torm is a fallen god. One that I feel you follow to great will.
Absolutely.
Brother to Bahamut in creed, not in birth. Torm and the other equally matched god Bane, the god of war. Locked in eternal combat for quite some time. It was not until a great force was used by Bane and the two slain each other. Both were felled by the other's weapon. However, using what strength he had left, Torm called out to Bahamut. His weak and young ally was all he had left. Bahamut came to his aid and was not strong enough to revive him, but stayed him from death's door. Not through his own power, but siphoning from one much stronger than them. All of them. The Great Sleeper the Eternal One, while not woken from his slumber, his power was used by Bahamut to keep Bane dead, away in the afterlife. And while not able to revive Torm, would keep him in a dormant state, permanently asleep. Since then, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Law Masters, and the Church of Bahamut has grown since then, his powers emboldened after acting as a siphon. Bane is one of those dead gods. You could say Torm is as well. But longer dead than both of them is the god Orcus. That god of the undead. He was slain by Bane, coincidentally enough. 50, 70 years before this clash with Torm. And it's not because Bane is a righteous and loving god. He is vicious, a warrior, a bringer of death. But he is organized and has rights and leads armies in formation. Orcus does not, or did not. He was a blight on the world as a whole. And Bane was one of the few strong enough to go into combat with him. Led many of his followers to their deaths. Many of them came back as warriors for Orcus himself. But eventually, setting apart some of their differences, Bane, Oriel, and even Bahamut, before he was strong enough to be his own deity, supported Bane. They slew Orcus together. The only difference is that there are still followers of Bane. Some of the greatest generals in this world look to him for guidance. The fiercest fighters, the most ruthless outlaws. But Orcus has not been seen since. No followers were found, for his armies were his to control. You still have to convince a soldier to fight for you and with you. And Bane had to do as such. Orcus, on the other hand, was like a puppet master. You kill the master, and the puppets fall limp. Perhaps there were more gods that set foot on these shores that died shortly after, expending their powers, not being able to get a foothold. But those are the only two that I ever knew that had surviving remnants.
Thank you.
What can you tell me of Bane's Remnant?
Bane's Remnant is one of the more deadly for a remnant. I haven't seen it myself, but typically the gods picked something that represented them, and Bane was one for sigils, for flags. His symbol is that of a bloodhawk. He emblazoned it on everything. His armors, his weapons, his soldiers' tunics. He was proud of it. I can guarantee you it's a weapon of some kind. He fought himself with a spear and standard. A flag adorned with a blade. beyond that, I have not seen it nor held it myself. Some of the other remnants are more visible. Chimera, which is the ascended mortal, back in 120. Hers was her favorite instrument, a viola. And the reason that anybody knows what those are nowadays is because of her. The remnants are as mysterious as those that created. The less known and the more secretive the deity. Such is as with the remnants. But there is one for each of them. Which makes 11 in total. And this knowledge is not something that is well known. You are the first people I have told to in person. Before that, it was between me, the inner sanctum, and Unja herself. And while I have not shared it with any others, I assure you there are others that know. And keep that in mind if you wish to continue on this path.
Thank you.
Then, at least, though not entirely clear, our path does seem to be laid out for us.
So you are going to try and track them down. Is that what you're going to do?
I feel that that's the second half of the path that we started.
I agree.
Well, not all remnants are as hostile as Oriel. For I've been able to hold Muncha's gift myself. And others have in the past, before we seal it away for good. If you come across them, I would ask that you grant me knowledge on them.
And you see him kind of turn for a moment and reach into a part of his like flowing tunic. He pulls out a small, perfectly dark, like it almost looks like a black hole. There's like no edge to the sphere. It's a small glass, pitch black sphere that he holds up to the party, and it's like 2 or 3 inches wide. It's pretty small. He holds it out and he goes,
I cannot see far beyond my isle with my own eyes. But with this, I may see a bit farther. If you find more of these, it may be best to seal them here as well. But I won't know unless I'm able to feel them.
How do we use this?
Whatever it sees, I do as well. And while I can't communicate to you through it, it is another eye outside of my body. If you wish for someone other than yourselves to witness something, this is how
Soren,
it's done.
It is like a physical object, right? Is he
Yeah.
holding it out to us?
Whoever wants to take it can take it from
Yeah.
him.
It's Soren would. If I'm close, Soren would grab it. Kind of
So yeah,
curious.
as he puts it down in your hand, it feels like a glass, like a large marble. But rotating it, like there's no texture to it. It's just like pure darkness on it.
If you wish to remain hidden, what it cannot see, I cannot either.
Does it transmit sound as well, or is it only sight?
Not in the literal sense that you describe, but whatever it sees, I feel.
I
Interesting.
think I understand.
If you're going to continue to find these people and these other relics, they're going to be digging up things that have been buried for a long time. And all I would do is urge caution in doing so. Sometimes people lose things, and that's how they get buried. And sometimes they bury them on purpose. I'm not sure what else I can give you to help you on your journey. If you need any supplies, foodstuffs, I can offer what we have. For this is in our best interest as well as yours. Whatever it is you do goes well.
You've been very helpful. The only thing that I would ask is for safe passage from the island. Is this something you can help us with?
I can help, yes. It may surprise you to know we have no boats here. But with the quarrel that you faced in the Aram Channel, I've calmed the waters once before, for one man. I would do it for you as well.
So we're gonna swim? I don't swim
Unless
so
you
well.
can find a boat. I can see, but I cannot.
Oh god.
I'm not a good woodworker.
Just out of character, would it seem swimmable? Is it not all that wide? It's just like swift and
It's
full of
pretty.
monster.
It's pretty wide, but it's not like the English Channel wide. It's like, it was a relatively slow-moving channel when you were on it. It was just incredibly deep, and it is an ocean channel, so it is ocean water, so it's probably very cold. But seemed relatively calm compared to being on the ocean. It was probably 3/4 of a mile across at its thinnest point.
Something I noticed, we watched some flying creatures more or less be turned away by some kind of barrier around the island. I have the ability to fly, but I don't want to get knocked out of the air. Is there any way you could allow me to leave the island by way of flight?
That barrier you speak of is actually not something that I've created. That is the void that constantly tries to eat away at Glenmont. And we've managed to push through enough that the southern beach is accessible. As you entered, you may leave. But if I knew how to push back the void to make another doorway, I would have done it 200 years ago. But I will talk to those here in town. See what we can put together for you. perhaps we can find you something to get you across. But if you were to have to travel it yourself, like I said, I would calm the waters for you. It's just a long way to swim.
We are fairly resourceful. If you can provide us that, we will work with what we've got.
Agreed.
I'm less worried about your swim and more worried about when you make it to Valax's cauldron.
Oh shit.
Anyone been there? I've never been.
I hear it is a not pleasant place to be.
You're familiar, Marleo?
I have heard through our own conversations with people about Valax's cauldron and the beasts that lie within. While I am curious, it does sound terrifyingly brutal.
Well,
You seem like look down as you just kind of like contemplates for a moment. He looks over towards Pig. This Pig's just been like looking at him the whole time, very quietly. He kind of like squats down from it, like kneels down next to Pig, looks up to Peyton Verna, and goes,
it appears you're not the only ones that have been reunited with an old.
and as Pig, like as he says that, Pig just like stands up and walks over to him and sits down next to him, and he kind of puts one hand like to the left of his ear and just kind of like brushes his fur for a moment. Looks up to you and goes,
You've brought me great joy. Spirit I have not seen in a long time.
he kind of places both hands next to Pig's face. You see that same light green glow come from his hands as Pig's eyes light up as they did during the revival process. As you see a small wisp, almost green smoky entity begin to pour out of like where Pig's spine is and kind of hover over him for a moment. You see as it forms in the air a very thin kind of like young elven face kind of appears in the mist above it, and he kind of smiles and goes,
It's you. Thought you were lost to Oriel for the years to come.
as Pig kind of like seizes for a moment and then just kind of like falls over on the ground.
Huh.
A few moments pass. You notice that Pig is not breathing as the wisp hovers over for a moment. He looks to Peyton Verna, shock on their face. He kind of shakes his head for a moment and like looks away from the wisp that's hovering there, places his hands both underneath Pig's chin, holds his head up for a moment. Pig, his eyes are closed. Pig is just completely limp in his hands. As he closes his eyes once more, just takes a deep breath, sighs. You see some of the leaves in the canopy above you bristle for a moment as Pig opens his eyes, looking up towards Peyton Verna immediately. You see that glint behind his eyes is gone. As he struggles to get to his feet for a moment, kind of shakes out, and then trots immediately over to both of you and is like shivering a little bit, like he's cold. Viserin stands up as this wisp hovers next to him, and he goes,
This is an old friend. One that I knew nigh on 1,000 years ago. Funnily enough, how friends come back to you in strange packages. And perhaps you'll have your friend back as well.
Oh.
Pig looks very confused.
give some much needed head scratches to Pig. And just kind of look onwards.
He's super happy about it.
Well, I regret to say that I am spent. Like I said, I haven't communed in quite some time. And usually when I do, I at least have the relief of seeing my goddess's face. None such in this circumstance. I need to rest. And before I do, I will put out word. See what things we can scrounge. Materials and such. To get you back across the river. Most of the time, I invite those that come here to stay. And many do. Often for the rest of their lives. Your friend Torlok is one of them. There is an unusual peace here, in the quiet. But the fire in your souls is not one meant for here. And I will not belittle you with that offer.
Maybe someday.
As he's saying this, you see Davrik, kind of from the edge of the group, goes,
Actually, I feel spent as well. Seeing somebody at peace as your friend was. I was basically enslaved for years up on that mountaintop. I need to rest. And perhaps I won't be so alone here with someone else from a mountain nearby.
and he looks to Visera and he goes,
If you'd had me, if you'd have me here, I'd like to stay.
and Viserion looks to him and nods and looks to the rest of the party, like, quizzically.
Well, I feel you'd be safer here than you would in many parts of Calran.
Which is why I feel the need to take my chance while I have it.
I can respect that.
He kind of sighs a breath of relief and...
Right. That's it then.
He just kind of stands there and, like, in quiet and... Viserion goes,
If you'd like, I'll show you back. You're welcome to stay wherever you wish. And I'm sure Torlok will be happy to see you after this meeting. The last man that was an outsider that came through here was the one that he spoke of to you. The one that I unfortunately had to send away. A follower of whatever group this is. I think he feels partially responsible for that man's fate. And I did not burden him with his actual fate, but he is not responsible for it. And if you were to tell him that, I'm sure it would help. He won't believe me.
This man you turned away, he left willingly?
You could say that. As an observer, you may say he made his own decisions, but I saw the fury that burned in his eyes. The contempt he had for our vault and what we had here. So he walked willingly away from this place, back to the beach from whence he came, into the Aram Channel, and to the bottom of it. He made the right decision.
And he just kind of looks like he looks away into the ground when he says that.
So please, do what you need. And anything we can do to help, you have it. But I must rest. Go in peace.
And he kind of like puts one hand on the tree as he kind of nods to all of you. And begins to walk to the back of the inner sanctum chambers. Davrick actually follows him.
Well, I guess it's time to hit the old dusty trail.
Get the hell out of here.
I guess Marleone's gonna start leaving the chamber.
Ixis
Yeah.
follows quickly behind Marley once he sees people.
So you guys walk out of the main sanctum, the dome closing behind you. As you walk out onto that stone pathway, you see Torluck at the far end of the tower in front of you, sitting and having a small meal with another resident. As he sees you all come out, he like immediately puts down his food and gets up and hobbles over to all of you and he goes,
So how'd it go? They're still here.
Went well enough.
oh, you cut out.
Oh, hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. It went well enough, that's for sure.
Well, that's good. Was he able to help?
Yes. In more ways than one.
Well, that's good. That's really good. I was worried about it's nothing, but I'm glad to hear that. And you all look like you've seen something quite horrific. Are you all right? You're all pale in the face.
The meeting was successful. The meeting was taxing.
They can be with him, but like I said, I've never met anyone else more interesting in my life. It's to see what he's seen. Well, I'm making some lunch. If you'd like some, back at the cottage, and I've got this feeling that you're not staying for very long, are you? You're not here to stay.
Our mission takes us
Unfortunately
elsewhere.
not.
I had my hopes up, but such are the boffins, always on the move.
Well, Verna and I might want to spend some time here.
Sounds nice.
You're always welcome, of course. I've only got the one room, but I'll make room for you two. And for your friends, of course. Like I said, join me for lunch, before you get ready for your journey.
Of course.
And he kind of guides you all back down the massive staircase to the cottage once more. And you see, as laid out, like it's a very small kitchen, but it seems like it's being been tended by somebody in the meantime while you've been gone. And there's just there's beautiful like it's a lot of green on this table, I'll put it that way. There's no meat, there's no animal products of any kind. It's all plant-based, but there are a mixture of salads and like almost like a vegetable kind of like casseroles that has like been made up down like up and down this outside dining table that he has outside. He kind of brings you to it and he goes,
I know that I know you're a bit of a carnivore, but perhaps,
and he kind of looks down at like Pate's stomach and he goes,
perhaps it's for the best. That maybe you try some of the local food. How
He's
many
gonna
steaks?
kind of reach into his pocket and pull a little bit of jerky, but then think twice and agree.
and he looks to you and he goes,
Can you remember anyone that can put away a flank steak faster than me?
None.
And if I'm satisfied here, trust me.
That's fair.
so he sets out a seat for all of you at the picnic table outside, and kind of like sets out all the food in front of you, and it's more than enough you can need for a full meal and then some. And just kind of goes,
I'm going to go clean up a bit inside, but please, anything that you're welcome to take as much of this as you want. This will save for about a week if you pack it right. So, I've got more than enough, please.
and he goes back inside and begins to kind of put things together and leave you all to your own devices.
Alright. Is the food actually good?
It's really good. Hesitant at first, but it's not as like savory as like a hefty, meaty, greasy meal. But as you're eating it, you're like, I've never enjoyed a plant this much.
I don't think I've ever enjoyed a plant quite this much.
I'll take a seat, but I don't have an appetite.
I'll sit next to Alrond and I'll eat as much of this food as I can, since I assume it's not at. Gotta keep them calories up.
Yeah, so Hicks is just shoveling it down.
Yeah, Marleone is not hungry. He's still pondering what the hell he saw in that freaking dreamlike vision he had. Hey, Soren.
Yeah, what?
Do you remember back when we were on Calvin's Cairn, when we spent that night, or whatever time period it was, in that little, not shrine, but where we first met that woodland spirit climbing the mountain?
I do. What about it, though?
I'm just curious. It's more curiosity than, I guess, looking for anything deeper. But when we were sleeping that night, you and I had the same dream from two different perspectives, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. I think so. The one where we were other people?
Yeah, and Scramsax was there. And this is just a shot in the dark, but I'm assuming you probably did not experience that same thing when we were in that trance, before we spoke with that being, the deity. I apologize. Her name is still new to me.
Unja.
Unja. Before we spoke with Unja, I feel that, I don't know, I guess I'm curious what people experienced, but I'm curious if we all experienced the same thing or if it was different.
Is this like just to Soren, or is it just like in the group?
I mean, initially it was just to Soren, but it wasn't like quiet that only he could hear. It was like, you know, we've been traveling together. I remember that time, and then kind of expanding outward. Like, I'm curious if everybody else had a similar experience today.
In between mouthfuls of salad, Hixus will elbow Alaron slightly and saw Bane kill you, man.
I'm sorry. Wait, say that again. Did I hear that right?
Well, a man on a horse who had a spear and standard that was described as Bane's item stabbed a man who looked a lot. That was what I saw.
This is even more troubling than seeing the man I saw as my father executed.
I guess that
Did
answers the
everybody
question
see
then.
someone from Elrond's family die?
I did not.
Neither did I.
I was in what appeared to be, and my eyes, as I awoke, I felt like I was in water, but it was in fact not water, and rather blood everywhere, and in a small lagoon I saw a raven with no eyes over a cloak of pure, like the blackest black I've ever seen. And as it looked at me, I was pulled into the blood itself. And the last thing I remember from that was suffocating for a second before being pulled back to, I guess, our reality.
Sounds like all of our visions are morbid then.
Yeah.
Did anyone else see an object of note? I had thought, well, maybe we would be seeing some of the locations of some of these relics that we haven't found.
I don't know, but
There was sand in my dream. I was escaping, and the sand prevented my escape. It pushed me back into the danger. I don't know what that means. Maybe we're running out of time?
The only figure or any object that I saw in my dream was a cloak. But I don't know what that represents.
in my own, the execution was carried out by lawmasters of Bahamut, which I cannot make sense of in the slightest. One of them even had the gauntlet that I have now, or at least a very similar one.
The gauntlet was in mine as well.
You said the man looked a lot like me?
Well, he didn't have a face, but similar armor and the gauntlet.
The paladins I've traveled with before told me of a man who possessed the gauntlet before I did, who was destroyed by some unknown evil. I wonder if that's related,
Hmm.
whether or not it's him or me.
One of the things, after talking for so long, that bothers me is, I guess this entire time, I've never been told that Orcus was a dead god. Before my entire journey started, from my monastery, I was sent out on a quest of enlightenment. And to make a very long story short, on that journey, I had a vision of my monastery being destroyed by what I presumed to be Orcus. Maybe this was a vision of the future or something, or maybe this is unrelated, but if Orcus is a dead god and is trying to come back, suddenly that makes a lot more sense. And it only makes me want to return to Larand faster than I did before. Though I know that I feel the mission we have right now should take precedence. I guess the next time we find a city, I'll have to send out some form of communication. At the very least, letting them know that I'm alive, because I don't think anyone there knows I'm alive. It's been a long time. But also to warn them of the possible threat that could potentially overtake them, should this not go the way we would like, or if Orcus is the one who's even trying to come back. It could be someone else for all I know. It just felt really eerie.
In our conversation, he had mentioned Alrond, that Bahamut had wielded some sort of power, something called the Sleeper, or the Old Sleeping One. Is this something that's common knowledge in followers of your faith?
DM.
Yeah, I mean that event would be common knowledge to Tormtar. Himself, though, not really.
I remember you sent me a document that had some information on it.
Yeah.
It had detailed information. I can't find it.
I'm pretty sure I have it. I'll send it to you real quick.
Awesome. I thought it was in one of these documents you sent me, but I couldn't find it again. It had the details of like.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'll look for it while you guys are talking.
I guess something that we should also probably discuss. After getting back to Kalran, provided we make it back to Kalran and through Valax's Cauldron, what is our destination? I guess where do we think we should begin our hunt for the followers of dead gods?
We find some followers of these gods. If we can locate some sort of church or temple dedicated to them, and we start asking questions.
Hey, can you guys hear?
Breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, you're beep booping.
I am.
No, Dean is.
Yeah, Dean.
Okay, it's pretty much Sarah and I are losing 80% of what everyone's saying.
Yeah, I missed most of the conversation.
We can hear you guys now.
Oh, okay.
Can you guys hear us fine?
I just lost whatever you said.
Yeah.
It's not you guys, it's us.
Yeah, our internet is so bad. You can hear us okay?
Yep.
Yeah, now we
I
can.
can now.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Yes. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, oh no.
I'm sure we started.
Wait, so Soren, what was your question again?
He had mentioned that in Torm's or after shit, what was it? That to defeat. No, it wasn't to defeat Bane because Torm and Bane get basically. I don't remember when it was supposed to be. That Bahamut siphoned the power from something called the Sleeper. Is that something
the
that?
god Ta'at is some entity of massive untapped power, a god known as the Sleeper. It was Bahamut who was able to siphon power from him to help Torn defeat. And even restore him to godhood after Bane was felled.
Oh. If there is any writing that you have, any books of this event, or I would appreciate being able to read them. I'm curious of this.
I do not have any of these books on me, but if you were ever to be heading towards the north of the Emir, you could find some temples up there that may have what you're looking for.
Noted.
Tina and Sarah, can you hear us?
On and off.
Yeah, on and off. I'm
Okay.
trying to do my best.
With that, Torla comes back out with some food wrappings, and begins like packaging up some of the rations that you guys have with you on the table, stuff that you guys decided not to eat or was gonna save much longer. As he's wrapping it up, and he goes,
Well, Viserin just reached out and we're looking to secure your passage back across the Aram Channel, it sounds like. It's a dangerous journey. But he didn't seem too worried about it.
We'll manage, as we always do.
Well, I'm sure you'll be alright, but I'm just sad to have to see you go. You see friends show up here, I just assume people come here to stay. But so as it is, you're welcome to take this.
and he pushes. There's like 6 or 7 little packages of food. It's gonna be about 5 days of rations that he pushes to you guys. Whoever wants to take them. He kind of goes,
Like I said, they got plenty. We've got more than enough that we need here.
Thank you.
And I don't know when you're planning on leaving, but if you're going to stay for a little while, won't complain about the company.
Yeah, how long do we want to stay?
Well, we gotta find a way across the channel somehow, and I don't think it's going to be in a day.
So we'll be staying here at least a few nights, I would assume.
Oh, it's great to hear. Of course, I know you're waiting on transit. I just, like I said, you're the first people I've recognized since I've come here, so, yeah, that'll be great. But,
You'll have to show us around.
Of course, I'll take you to one of the people that might be able to help you with getting it back across the channel. We don't have fish or anything, but we do have somebody that came here probably 50 years after I arrived. That he's an older human fella, came here very young, and I guess he used to work as a piersman, kind of a dock maker. Perhaps he can fashion you something that'll get you back across. It's
Okay.
kind of odd to think about. This place you don't really need much of anything. It's already provided for you. I've never needed to go find a new set of dishes or needed to go repair a tool. Everything just kind of works and stands still in time. I've had enough things wear out on me though that I'm okay with it. Well, if you're done with your meal, I could take you to go see him. There's still plenty of daylight left.
Looking up, you can see the sun is actually like, it's visible now because it's in that the hole in the mist above you. It's like a little to the west. It's probably early afternoon.
Well, it's up to everyone. Maybe we take a few hours to collect ourselves before we go, or...
I'd like to take a moment to shop around town before we head out.
Yeah.
Get some supplies.
All right, well, whatever you need. You're my guests.
Okay.
And he sees like the concern on your guys' faces and just kind of like tones it down a little bit and like nods and just kind of
Be in here if you need anything.
goes back inside. So as Torluck leaves you guys on your own out on the picnic table out in front of the inner sanctum of Glenmont, probably gonna leave it there for tonight. Probably had a lot of shit thrown at you guys. Dean and Sarah, if there's stuff that you missed in the conversation, the Twitch VOD will have it if you want to rewatch
okay.
it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I've been downloading them. I'm gonna edit them down and upload them to YouTube so they're like just the
Nice.
session and nothing extra. But I haven't done that yet. So yeah, and I'm sure the next session, basically, we'll start the next session where you guys are you'll be able to recap anything you want with each other because I'm sure stuff gets faded out through the week.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So just double check calendar here quick.
Doing drugs, having bad dreams.